Hello, sports fans, and welcome back to Overtime. I'm your host, Jordan Hiles, and today I'm joined by Gage, Wellman, and Maddox Miller, and we are ready to talk about everything in the world of sports. Kicking off with Kent State's only soccer team, which is a women's soccer team, in fact, and we just had a very good rivalry game last night against Akron. We defeated them 1-0. Gage, you were there covering it. Tell us about it.
A great game it was indeed. With Coach Rob Marinaro, I did interview him along with our producer, Alex Isaiah, and he told us that this was definitely a tough rivalry game, and they had it in their minds on the field. It was especially impressive to see the Flashes absolutely shut out the Zips on offense. There was, from all 45 minutes in the first half to the second half, there was a few opportunities for the Zips to score, but the Flashes' defense was especially impressive. Goalkeeper Heidi Marshall, she pretty much knocked down any shots. There was a goal scored by the Zips, which was pretty impressive, but however, it was called back due to an offsides penalty. I think it was a great experience for me. That was my first ever time reporting on a soccer game. I've been to a few just as a fan. One of the first times I was actually here, I went to a soccer game against Cleveland State. It was a total just teamwork, lots of hard teamwork. It was a great time being there. I was very grateful that I had that opportunity.
Yeah, it was an intense game. The first score wasn't even scored until, like the 52nd minute?
No, and when me and Alex were there, we thought it was an own goal. But I believe it was Todd. I don't remember her last name, but it was Todd, her last name. And she scored. It was her second goal of the year. Really good for her to get involved in the offense because she's actually a defensive player, and mostly is there to help the Flashes kind of on defense. It was really great for her to get her second goal on there, and we even talked to Coach Marinaro. He was really impressed by that.
Yeah, and Kent is what? They're 7-5 overall and 4-3-2 in the MAC. Akron is 0-7 in the MAC.
Yeah.
So as Kent has a winning record right now, them only winning 1-0 against Akron, who hasn't even won a game yet in the MAC, is kind of crazy to me. But being a rivalry school, the emotions were high. Could you tell that from the soccer players, like the fans? Was there a good rivalry happening?
When we talk to you about these fans, I don't know who it was, and this was just from what I heard from a fellow photographer. I was doing some videography, but a fellow photographer who worked for Kent. Apparently, the Akron Zips men's soccer team was in the stands. Now, I don't know if that was the team, but there was definitely a group of individual men wearing Zips gear who were just absolutely into this game. Now, above, sitting in the upper stands, there were men in Flashes gear, and they were just going back at it. And it was only a crowd of about maybe 90, 100 people. It was a very cold night. I don't blame people not wanting to catch a game, although they missed out on a great game that I was entertained through all the way. The stands were just lots of shouting, lots of words that me, Miss Hiles, and Mr. Miller are not allowed to say on air. All in all, I could tell that this game meant a lot to both players, fans, and coaches. Coach Marinaro, at several points, I could see him just shouting and being very feverish in his approach to the game. And I think, although Akron may not have a win in conference play, I don't think that means I do not think that's a strike against the Flashes. I think ultimately soccer is a game of 1s, 2s, and 3s. It's not football where if Ohio State only beats Akron's football team 7-0, that would be unimpressive. But in a game like soccer with such toughness, and we saw that girls were going at it, they fell. Lots of penalties were called. Not lots, but there was a good amount. And you saw that toughness throughout the game.
Yeah, soccer is not an easy sport. I just joined an intramural team, and our first game was Tuesday, and I thought soccer was going to be like a breeze for some reason. No, it is so hard. Have you guys ever played soccer, like actually?
I played 1 year of it, and I was a goalkeeper, and I almost broke my wrist. So
yeah, it was not for the weak, and it's co-ed, and these guys were coming at me at full speed. I was trying to defend them, and I just screamed and ran away. It was horrible. But I learned a lot about soccer. I played volleyball, so I don't really know too much about it. But I'm a midfielder, if that's what and they stay in the middle, so offense and defense. But yeah, we beat our team 5-0. I didn't score any points, but it was still, I'm super excited. Soccer is so fun. I feel like a lot of people think it's more of
Right.
a boring
Yeah,
sport
because
to watch.
it's
'cause
90 minutes of people just running around on a field.
Yeah.
But there's actually a lot that goes into it that
Yeah.
people kind of, I think, should respect a bit more.
Definitely.
And the score only being like 1-0, it's only really exciting. Like with football, a lot more scores are happening, or like basketball. So soccer is super interesting, and I really like it.
I had a great time. It was definitely a fortunate experience I had. I think moving forward, what I'm actually, and I have some great news to announce. I don't think I've told you guys. On Thursday, I am the public address announcer for the game against the Bowling Green Falcons. It's a bit of a weird time since it's 3 o'clock on a Thursday on Halloween.
No.
They were talking to me like, yeah, it might be a good first game experience for you because there won't be too many, but I am
That's
very
so
excited
fun.
and I'm very grateful to be
it should be
to have that opportunity.
Yeah, they play Eastern for their next game, right?
I think in Ypsilanti.
Sunday.
Yes.
And
No,
then-
it's their last away game, and then they have one more game at home. I don't know.
home.
I don't know who it's
Is it
against.
BG?
I think it's the Bowling Green game.
BG,
Oh,
and
yeah,
that'll
it's the
cap
game.
off
Just
regular
talked about
season, and then we'll get into MAC tournament.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. Do you guys want to take a look at the rankings? So
What do we got?
Western's 1, Buffalo, Ohio, and then we're 4th, NIU, Miami, BG, Central Michigan, Toledo, Eastern, Ball State, and Akron.
Okay.
So we're seated 4th, which is not bad.
Good place
No.
to be.
No, that's a good place.
Good place to be.
You just got to focus on finishing the season strong and just then looking to postseason play. I think what we talked about with like Akron being 0-7 and still only winning 1-0. That's just Akron's playing with all of the we want to spoil this team's fun type of fire, and Kent State just can't underestimate that, and so it's going to be a close game. But right now, just focus on ending the season strong, get into MAC postseason play. If you're a 4, a 3, or a 5 seed, that's a pretty good place to be in. Or if you can push for a 2 to 3 seed, you're going to be in a really nice place heading into the postseason and just end things strong.
Sometimes you have to manage expectations. It's not always the worst thing in the world not to be the highest seed. Sometimes when you're the 4th seed, you're not expected to win it all.
No.
Although I'm not saying that the Flashes aren't going in with that mindset to win the MAC. I think it is good to focus on yourself instead of the outside noise.
There are some huge matchups tomorrow in college football that I can't wait to dive into after this. Welcome back to Overtime, and we are taking things on to the football field where number 1 Oregon is taking on number 20 Illinois. And is it too crazy to say Illinois will beat Oregon?
I think no. I think this is definitely a Finding Illini team that has rebounded after a tough finish in 2023 against the Purdue Boilermakers, who are often known as the Spoilermakers because of their tenacity to beat higher-ranked teams. They beat that game in a tough overtime finish. So I think it is not a understatement to say that this Illinois defense, which absolutely just laid out against Jack Tuttle and the Michigan Wolverines offense, they just gave the Wolverines, who won the national championship ago, and I understand that they lost several key players, including J.J. McCarthy. But I think this Illinois defense can definitely get to the Ducks' offense. I don't think we have seen the Ducks play a tough defense. And I know Ohio State is who they are. Obviously, the Buckeyes are going to be the Buckeyes every year. But this is not the same Buckeyes defense we've seen, and we've been seeing that in the past few years, especially against Michigan. I think it's not crazy to say that Illinois will definitely give the Ducks a push. Do I know if they'll win? That's to be determined, and I think maybe Mads Miller can help us out with that.
I fully see Oregon as they're the best team in the country. With Texas's loss, they moved to number 1, and this is one of the best Illinois teams we've seen in a long, long time.
Yeah.
We have not seen an Illinois in the top 25 in a minute, but I think Oregon is clear head and shoulders above Illinois, and I do think Oregon's going to take this by multiple scores. I do think if the first quarter is close, then things could get a little dicey for the Ducks, but I think an Oregon team that is able to defeat Ohio State should be able to run through Illinois.
Well, here's the thing, though. Would you not say the same about Alabama beat Georgia, but then who did they lose to? They lost to Vanderbilt. Then they almost lost to South Carolina, and then they lost again to a Tennessee team that lost to Arkansas. So for me, I don't think it is crazy to say that the Fighting Illini could take this game against the Ducks. The Ducks who struggled against Boise State, who's sort of a similar team to Illinois, that they just have obviously they have a running game led by Genty.
I was going to say, and they have a Heisman winner, a potential Heisman winner on their running
That's
game.
true, but this Illinois defense is well coached. It's gone against tough opponents. I think it's not a stretch to see. I get where you're coming from, but I think this year is crazy. I can't remember a year like this. Obviously, I wasn't really watching in 2007 after I was born, but I do think it. Oh, here we go again with the Gage Wellman's young jokes. But
being born in 2007.
being born in 2006, excuse me
sorry.
so much, but I can't remember a year this crazy with all these upsets. I would not be surprised if Oregon loses tomorrow.
Yeah.
I think we're on two. Jordan, what do you think? Because we're on two sides of the spectrum here. Oregon.
Personally, I think Oregon's going to win if they can beat Ohio State. Ohio State, was at the top as well. Oregon just beat Ohio State, if I'm thinking correctly.
Yeah.
Illinois, my bad. They haven't really played anyone super great yet. Although they did play Michigan. Michigan, as we know, they're not even in the top 25. They're not what they ever were compared to last year when they won the national championship. I think Oregon, personally, is going to win.
But with Michigan did beat USC, and USC is a tough team. It's got, what's their quarterback?
Miller Moss.
Miller Moss, thank you so much. USC is coached by Lincoln Riley. They have lots of weapons on offense. Is it the same Wolverine team we saw from the last 3 years? No. They don't have Jim Harbaugh. They don't have McCarthy. Donovan Edwards isn't the same as he's been. But this is a year of upsets. This is a year of no clear number ones. I think you guys are seriously underestimating the Illini.
I don't think, if I remember correctly, it's like no team has lasted longer than like 2 weeks as the number one ranked, and then they've dropped it, other than maybe the first few weeks. But Michigan beat a USC team that's also out of the top 25. They just lost to Maryland. And Michigan has gone through 3 quarterbacks in 1 year after going through with J.J. McCarthy for an entire year. And even before that, having guys like Cade McNamara and Shea Patterson play entire years because they showed potential. They've had 3 quarterbacks come in, 3 quarterbacks go out. They are completely lost, and Illinois took advantage of that. I'm not saying Illinois is bad by any means, but what I am saying is Illinois, they beat a Nebraska team that just got mauled by Indiana.
You get mauled this week,
and
too.
they beat a Michigan team that is a shell of their former selves. So I think they might come into Oregon kind of thinking, we are on a good run right now, let's just keep it going. And then Oregon's going to say, no, we are the number 1 team in college football, and we are going to put that nail in the coffin for you.
It's definitely going to be interesting. I'm definitely going to have to text you guys after Saturday
absolutely.
see what happens.
It's going to be a very interesting
I'm not going to say outright that Oregon is going to lose. I wouldn't bet against them. However, I don't think this game is going to be a blowout at all. I think Illinois is really going to and it's weird to say, but this is a sort of a college football-y thing, that there are impressive losses. I think we'll probably see that from the Illini on Saturday.
And I think that would be a win in its own right for Illinois. If they come out and get beat by like 14, you can go back home and say, hey, we gave it our best against the number 1 team in the country, and we kept it within 2 touchdowns or 10 points or something like that. Now let's move on to lesser opponents and do what we did against Oregon, which should take a 14-point loss and turn it into a 10-point win maybe against a lesser opponent.
Still have a chance in the Big Ten title if a few teams lose.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think the rankings are all out of whack. Like Texas, who started off number 1 at the beginning? Well, Michigan, because they.
Michigan, yes.
Right.
No,
it was Georgia.
Georgia.
Yeah, it was Georgia, Ohio State, Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even
it was Georgia and Ohio State. I remember that.
Yeah. Right now we have Oregon, Georgia, Penn State, Ohio State, Texas as the top 5. That is crazy to me because those teams have just been kind of going in like a circle, I feel like. And
I don't expect a lot of those teams to stay that way. I don't think I do not see Penn State staying at number 3.
No.
We have seen for years now Penn State take advantage of smaller schools and then just kind of flummox out. I know that they have beaten Michigan occasionally. They haven't beaten Ohio State in 8 years. They haven't beaten Ohio State in 8 years.
Since Barkley.
Yeah,
since Saquon.
Yeah, they haven't beat Ohio State in a long time. I don't think they're going to beat Ohio State this year. I remember watching Bowling Green almost beat Penn State this year.
Yeah, that was a close game.
So I don't think Penn State's going to stay that way. I think I'm not convinced Oregon's going to stay that way. Oregon doesn't stay. They're number 1 right now, right?
Yes.
Or we don't, and if it's not for a Will Howard miscommunication, if Ohio State can just get a few yards down the field, Ohio State makes a chip shot field goal and they win that game.
Yeah.
So I don't think Oregon remains the number 1 team. I don't think we know what's going to happen of college football yet. It's hard to make sense of it all.
Oh, I think in past years it was really clear who that number 1 team is, and I think this year, like this national championship, like down the road is going to be super like what ifs.
Right.
Honestly, it's going to be like down to the wire, super close games, all just coming down to like, I don't know.
I think it's really the 12-team bracket is going to fully just determine. It's going to be who can just win on the game that they're given.
Yeah.
It's not the national championship picture is as foggy as it's ever been. Yes, Penn State is doing a sneaky rise to the top 3, even though they beat a now unranked USC team in overtime, which is complete.
I also forgot about that.
Yeah,
it's close in that too.
Penn State is not legit. Now, if they go out there and beat Ohio State, then all of a sudden the conversation's flipped. But Penn State kind of carries a like Dallas Cowboys-esque.
Yes, that's a very good comparison.
They'll just fall off when they run into real competition, and that's what'll happen. Texas, I thought, was the best team in college football, and they went and got beat down by Georgia. Alabama's season is on the fringes now since they just lost to Tennessee, and now Tennessee's re-entered the SEC picture. But then there's even teams like Texas A&M and LSU who are competing for the SEC. It's insane. And then like Miami.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're back, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Miami's what, 7th or 6th or something?
They're 6th.
Yeah.
6th? Yeah, they've been out of the picture for a long time as well.
And speaking of sneaky, I think one team, and I don't blame us for not bringing them up, I think one team that we have not brought up at all on the show, Iowa State.
Yeah.
Iowa State
Oh
took
my
care
goodness.
of
Yeah.
in-state rival Iowa in week 1 of the season, or maybe it was their second game, but there's a week 0.
Yeah.
So and since then they've gone undefeated. They escaped a close home loss. They beat UCF 38-35. They have a tough defense. They have a great rushing game. I think honestly I don't think they're obviously winning the Big 12, but I think they'd be favored in a matchup with the BYU Cougars, and I think they could get a bye in the 12-team bracket. I like them this year. I really like them.
There are a lot of teams that like this year.
Yeah.
And I want the undefeated Army-Navy game.
I want that too.
For
I think-
playoff implications.
I think we all want that.
We all want that.
I'm excited for that. That's always a fun game because, they're also supporting our country as well,
Right.
which I just love. Well, I love Saturday football talk, but let's get into some Sunday football talk, kicking off with the Cowboys and the Niners.
I have a lot of thoughts on this game, actually, because the Cowboys and Niners last year, they played, and it was seen as kind of a potential NFC Championship preview, a playoff preview, and now these are two teams. The Cowboys are coming off a bye week after getting 40-plus points dropped on them by the Detroit Lions. The 49ers just lost to the Kansas City Chiefs in a Super Bowl rematch. Brandon Ayuk is out for the season. Deebo Samuel is battling constant illness and injury. Christian McCaffrey's still not back. So this matchup that last year had so much punch to it just feels like a shell of itself. And these are two teams that are kind of drowning right now, and they're clinging on to each other, and it's who can push the other one underwater even further to get themselves above water.
That's great right there. Wow. As we talked about Penn State, I'm sick and tired of the Cowboys. Each year it's just
Every year.
Jerry Jones fumbles. Jerry Jones goes on a local news station and makes a fool of himself. Dak Prescott can't do this. When are we as a nation going to move on from this? When are we going to say, hey, I don't care what the Cowboys do this week? Because we don't say that about the Jacksonville Jaguars.
No.
We don't care about the Carolina Panthers outside of the big sport. I'm saying outside of sports fandom. I think the Cowboys are so incredibly undeserving of this national attention. I think the Niners, have they been underwhelming this year? Yes. But it's been a lot of injuries. Lots of injuries, and I think the Niners will take care of this week.
I was going to ask you, who do you think's the most underwhelming?
The Cowboys. Jerry Jones goes on TV or radio or whatever, and he says, we're going all in. They sign up the corpse of Ezekiel Elliott and a middle linebacker, and that is their all-in push. They continue to draft developmental offensive linemen that just don't pan out. Their old guys like Zach Martin are only getting older. The Cowboys are so underwhelming. In their own home, they got manhandled by the Green Bay Packers, a Packers team with Jordan Love in his first full year as a starter, and they looked like a JV team out there. They have high-end talent in Micah Parsons and CeeDee Lamb, but you remove one of those pieces and the whole, everything falls apart. Micah Parsons was out for the Lions game, and so was DeMarcus Lawrence, and the defense was a shell of itself. Trevon Diggs, coming off the injury, does not look like himself at all. He looks like the guy who we kind of stereotyped him as, which was a ball-hawking boomer-bust corner, and that's what he is, but he's not getting the interceptions that we saw last year or in prior years. The Cowboys are a mess. Jerry Jones will continue to land his helicopter on the 50-yard line on the practice field, and fans will continue to tour the facility, and players will continue to complain about it. And until Jerry Jones is ousted from ownership, the Cowboys, not just for this Niners game, but for the next 5 or so years, will continue to be a product.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's not football.
No.
You can't tell me you're a serious football team when you don't make changes to your coaching staff, when you employ Mike McCarthy, who got so lucky that his franchise drafted Aaron Rodgers, and then he got to play with Aaron Rodgers, he got to coach Aaron Rodgers. He's going to continue to hire yes men. He's going to continue to bring in guys that won't tell him no. He's not going to bring in a scouting department that'll actually challenge him and say, I want you to draft this guy, but Jerry Jones is going to want to draft this guy. You have to remember, let me take you back 10 years. Jerry Jones wanted to draft Johnny Manziel.
Yes.
He had to be convinced by his son Steven and the front office to draft Zach Martin, who is one of the greatest guards of all time, and is going to be in the Hall of Fame. So this is nothing new. I don't see an end inside of this. I don't think the Cowboys going to make the playoffs this year.
No. And look at Dan Quinn. He was the Cowboys defensive coordinator, and everyone kind of just. No one blames Mike McCarthy, at least in the Cowboys organization. We, as non-Cowboys fans, can fully see Mike McCarthy as an issue. But it's Dan Quinn, it's the offensive coordinators, it's the kicker for some reason. And Dan Quinn's now on the Commanders, a division rival, and is looking to win the NFC East right now as the head coach of the Washington Commanders. It's a miserable scene in Dallas right now. And that's crazy because we're talking about a team that's, 3-4, 3-3, whatever their record is.
Losing record.
Yeah, but we're not talking about the 1-6 Panthers or something where they're as dysfunctional as ever. So it's really
as dysfunctional as the Cowboys.
Yeah, but the Cowboys still have 2 more wins than them. It's a bad scene.
Sad scene.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have to guess that you guys are going with the Niners tomorrow or Sunday.
Sure.
Yeah, it's sure. It's bad for both teams. It's one team is riddled with injuries and the other team is riddled with Jerry Jones, and it's kind of just sure. I guess the 49ers are gonna win this game.
Well, yeah, that's exciting. But one thing that we're sure of is. Guess what snack is taking the NFL locker room by storm?
Lunchleys?
What?
Lunchleys? Prime? What is it, Jordan?
It is an uncrustable peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
All right.
I want you guys to take a guess how many are eaten in a season.
A season?
Yes.
By who? By one team?
No, the whole NFL as a whole.
Players?
Yes.
Oh, I have no idea. That sounds so.
That's high.
I don't think I can wrap my head around that.
Yeah, that's
PB&J's?
Yeah.
Uncrustables.
Probably 10,000.
The little things you get at
Yeah,
lunch.
so a roster of. Well, what's on the NFL roster? 54 man. 54 times 32.
Plus practice squad.
32 plus practice squad, and then does it take into account coaching?
I don't think so.
I don't know if 54 times 32, but probably in the thousands.
Yeah, I'd probably go 50,000 or something.
80,000.
Whew, that's a lot.
These
of
NFL
sandwiches.
players are chowing down on these Uncrustables, and I can't blame them because they are delicious. I loved when my mom would pack those in my lunch for me. I would get so excited in middle school. They're so great. You can defer from that because he doesn't like PB&J's.
No, I don't really like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I was not an Uncrustable kid growing up. I was actually a peanut butter sandwich.
I was too.
Yeah,
I don't really like jelly like
just
that.
peanut butter.
Jelly's
Just
okay.
Peanut butter on bread.
If we're gonna
you guys are crazy.
If you're gonna do a jelly, you got to make it a strawberry. I can't do a grape jelly.
Strawberry
Grape
is
jelly,
good.
I'm out on that.
I was just never jelly. I just no jelly, no jam.
Strawberry preserves, I don't mind. Maybe with some butter on toast. But I agree with
Actually
Maddox. I would do a peanut butter sandwich.
You need a lot of water though, because
I would do milk. You don't like milk?
no, I do, but
I would
not
do
with
milk.
Not with
I
peanut
would-
butter.
I would-
Not with peanut butter
But you
sandwiches.
gotta
I
put a
do
lot of peanut butter on, and then when you bite into the peanut butter bites back. So you've got lots of peanut butter in the cakes of your mouth, and you gotta unclog it with a bit of milk.
Yeah, no, you unclog it with water.
But you could do both.
Sure.
Why not have a glass of milk and a glass of water?
I'm usually eating it like in a lunchroom cafeteria. It's a packed lunch.
Okay.
I'm not packing milk because you're not allowed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, my school would have PB, and then they would PB and J. So if you wanted both, that'd be fine.
Okay.
And then you would just get the milk.
Oh.
You'd get the milk.
Oh, so I'm thinking of it like it's coming from my home. So it's like I'm packing a peanut butter sandwich, homemade.
That's fair.
Homemade.
Homemade.
It's
I mean,
literally-
yeah.
It's bread
Nora
and
Smith.
Jif peanut butter.
It is definitely homemade.
But
Yeah. Well, geez, I'm gonna give you guys some statistics
Yeah.
about this Uncrustable story.
Okay.
Broncos players specifically eat 700 Uncrustables a week. Each week.
wait, a week?
Each week.
If only they
700.
Yes.
spent more time thinking about that Russell Wilson trade, and then if they spent as much time thinking
Yeah.
about PB and J's, I think they'd
All
probably
right.
be in the playoff.
Do you think the
picture.
money they're spending on Uncrustables equals the amount they're spending on the Russell Wilson contract?
Probably not. Probably not.
Anyways,
Beats me. But then we have tight end George Kittle.
Yeah, big guy.
This is
probably
he
beats.
went on a podcast or an article and he discussed how much he eats of these because it's a big thing. He eats 2 on flights to road games and anywhere from 2 to 4 on flights home.
so
Yeah, it's not bad.
That's
So
a-
17 games.
I'm thinking
just a
they're
lot.
Yeah.
big guys, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And a PB&J, like I figured they'd want like some like sandwich with like meat and cheese, but no. They
You know
want
where
an
you get that?
Uncrustable.
I'm just gonna make another lunch leash joke, but I think I can't do any more.
You've run that?
I was gonna make another lunch leash joke, but I'll keep it inside.
It has to just feel good after a game or something.
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's probably just the fact that it's like peanut butter it won't make you feel like crap. A
Quick
little
carb.
bit of bread won't make you feel like crap.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's just you
It is
eat it,
good.
it gets you full.
And they probably think sort of like a nostalgic feeling, because Jordan,
Sure.
you guys mentioned like having them in your lunch, like your mom would pack them. It probably makes, after getting your behind kicked all day on the football field, it's like, oh, I feel like I'm 12 again,
Yeah.
eating
It's
a little
like,
PB&J.
it's like mom giving you orange slices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
What? Wait,
Your
what do
mom
you
never
mean?
gave you an orange slice?
You never like halftime like watermelon slices or
I
little
would do
orange
that.
slices or like you get the little Gatorade
I'm
bottles
not.
after
I don't like
games?
oranges, so watermelon's my fruit of choice
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm on that same boat.
We're getting off topic about
Yes.
the fruit and everything. Let's get back in the topic of sports. Guess what is happening tonight? The World Series. We have the Yankees versus the Dodgers tonight at 8, and I am ready
Anybody
for
else
it.
hear the Evil Empire
Yeah,
theme from Star
it's-
Wars being
wow.
played, or is it just me?
I'm a bit sad that the Guardians aren't in there. Even though I'm a Pittsburgh fan all around, I still really do enjoy the Guardians. But I don't know. Are you excited?
It's hard not to be. Obviously, you want the Guardians in there. You want some underdog, some punchy underdog. We saw the Diamondbacks with their run last year, Snakes Alive and whatnot. But this is truly like we're about to see what baseball can be, like the full potential of baseball, the sport, because we have some of the most high-powered offenses, pitching staffs in the majors. We have the 2 best teams in the majors this year, the 1-seeded Yankees, the 1-seeded Dodgers, and they're going to go put on a show in 2 of the biggest markets in sports. And all neutral fans, they can hate all they want, but I think the best thing to do is just sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Just enjoy the show. Enjoy the history we might be witnessing.
I'm definitely one of those neutral fans. You know what I'm most excited for, everybody? Watching those Yankee fans cry on Twitter after the Dodgers take them in 5.
Wow.
It's going to be a wrap. The Yankees could barely scrounge up and almost lost a game 4 where David Fry hits a little tapper and Anthony Rizzo couldn't scoop it up. I think the Yankees, again, are underwhelming. I think they took advantage of an underwhelming bracket. Everybody likes to forget, outside of Cleveland, that Shane Bieber was not available against the Yankees. If Shane
available
Bieber
all
is there,
season.
or Emmanuel Clase looks like how he did, the Guardians make the World Series. I don't think the Yankees have enough bullpen power. I don't think they have enough offense outside of their big three, which sure, that big three of Stanton, Judge, and Soto is killer. Giancarlo Stanton is a killer. Soto is a killer. Aaron Judge in the postseason, yeah, in low leverage situations. So I think with all those weaknesses that the Yankees have, and even the Cleveland Guardians, who were a underpaid team, were able to exploit that. Imagine what the Dodgers can do. I think this is a clear Dodgers win for me.
I have to disagree.
Ooh.
I love it. Well, okay, I do think the Dodgers are going to take this in the end, but I do think this is 6 or 7. Like, sweep or Yankees or Dodgers in 5, I just don't think is going to happen. I think the Yankees, we watched Aaron Judge hit a liner off of Emmanuel Clase to give themselves a home run to get themselves back in the game. Giancarlo Stanton is on a hot run right now. He is mashing balls like no one has before. And you can say, yes, Shane Bieber wasn't available. He wasn't available all year. Shane Bieber was pitching amazing in those 2 games, but if we go down the full length of the schedule, let's say Shane Bieber wasn't those 2 games. That didn't define him. Clase, yeah, if Clase showed up like he did in the regular season, the Guardians could have won. But the thing is, the Yankees torched him. They tortured that man. And that's what happened. They got hits. They got hits off the guy. And they have solid pitching. Yes, guys like Luke Weaver are a little scary when it comes to pitching, and saves are interesting. They don't have like a lockdown closer. But the Dodgers also have some question marks on their pitching. They have Jack Flaherty, but Jack Flaherty got lit up by the Mets, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto is still on kind of a pitch count coming off of his injury, where I think it's going to come down to the other guys. Betts, Freeman, Ohtani, Soto, Stanton, Judge, they're going to do their thing. Freeman's a little banged up, but they're going to do their thing. It's going to come down to guys like Max Muncy.
I was going to say,
Max Muncy might. If Max Muncy wins World Series MVP, do not be surprised.
But who do the Yankees have outside of Torres? And Torres is a very good player. Gleyber Torres is a very good player. But outside of that big three and some help here and there with Torres getting on base, they don't have anyone on offense that can compare to a Max Muncy, to a James. Is James Outman playing? To a Will Smith. And then in addition, Betts has always been known to turn up in the World Series. We saw it in 2018 against the Dodgers when he was a Red Sox. So I do think the Dodgers have more than the Yankees have in this World Series.
What do you have? Because
I don't know. I'm thinking honestly, it's going to be close. I don't think they're gonna, take them straight. I think it'll be a battle, but ultimately, I think the Dodgers might take it. If I'm looking at it from like the perspective of that, just because I feel like they've been doing better. I feel like they have better players, in my opinion. But I don't know. I think it's going to be close. I mean, it's the World Series. It's the 2 best teams.
I mean, the other thing is like the Dodgers beat the Mets in 6. They technically lost more games than the Yankees did. The Yankees have, and this may be product of a weak bracket,
Exactly.
AL Central merchants and whatnot, but the Dodgers had to go to 5 against the Padres, and then they had to go to 6 against the Mets. The Yankees they beat the Royals in 4, and then they beat the Guardians in 5. They've lost 2 playoff games compared to the Dodgers losing, it would be 4. So I think it's a lot closer than you may be thinking.
We'll see.
Well, it's going to be a good game, I think. Close call, starting all tonight, and then we have games back to back to back. So we'll find out our World Series champion at just the end of next week.
Should
be.
Around that time.
It's like a 2-week thing.
Yeah.
Usually towards the beginning of November, if it takes that long.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for it. I know you guys are, and I'm sure all of you are. But now we're going to get into a new segment today called Start, Bench, Cut. And this is where our producer, Alex, has chose 3 players for us to decide our lineups, but we'll get into that after this. All right, for our very new segment, our first 3 players are Burrow, Lamar, and Stroud. So we got the quarterback category. Let's take a look at the stats.
All right.
Wow.
So I need to
Are we
win one game? Oh.
Yeah. So
to
I
win
guess
what game?
So I guess it's like, are we doing
To win one game.
win one game?
Yes.
To win one game.
And are we? I guess we can base it off of this season and their prior seasons.
I'll
as
go
well.
to win one game. I'm going to start Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's a 2-time MVP. He's a multifaceted player. I think a lot of people underrate his arm talent. I think people kind of just see the movement, they see the shiftiness. I think Lamar Jackson is, in my opinion, already a Hall of Famer. You're a 2-time MVP winning quarterback. I think it's a shoo-in. I'm going to.
This is the tough part.
If this was the beginning of last year, I'd definitely bench Burrow, right?
Yeah, he didn't start.
But since the AFC Championship appearance, it's been nothing for Joe Burrow. It's been injuries. It's been this year was super tough. But then that 2-year stretch of Super Bowl and then close AFC Championship game loss, that was a great stretch for Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow looked amazing. And I think, although I love C.J. Stroud, I loved him at Ohio State. I'm a big C.J. Stroud believer. It may be an inferior, he might even be starting. I'm going to have to bench Burrow and cut Stroud.
I think I'm going to start Lamar as well. Because the other thing is we don't know what type of team we have. If we're going Lamar Jackson with like the Carolina Panthers roster, I think we still have the best chance to win because Lamar can create with his legs. Lamar can create on the move. He's more mobile. He's not as pocket reliable like Burrow and Stroud. And this year he's shown like he has some serious gunslinging capabilities where he can just let the ball fly. I think, and this has no real statistical merit, I think I'm going to cut Burrow.
All right.
Stroud is coming to the NFL, and he's kind of just done one thing, and that's win.
Yeah.
He's won games. Obviously, if we look at his stats, they're not as on par with Burrow. Burrow has 5 more touchdowns and 2 less interceptions. But I think Stroud has a certain level of calmness to him. He has confidence in him. And I know Burrow, all the nicknames that we could go through, Joe Cool, and I'm not going to say the other one. But
Don't say that here. Not at this desk.
Stroud, he just wins. He just wins games. He won games at OSU. He won games in his rookie year.
He won some games at OSU.
He won.
Yeah.
Not the ones I wanted him to win.
He won a good chunk of games
But
at OSU.
he was undefeated against Penn State. He was undefeated against Michigan State.
Yeah.
There was a different Michigan team I wanted them to beat.
Sure. But
That's what I'm going to bounce off. I love Ohio State fan, obviously. I love C.J. Stroud. But I'm going to have to go with, let's see, Joe Burrow. Did he ever win a Heisman ever?
Yes, Lamar Jackson won a Heisman Trophy.
Oh.
And he still was like the 5th drafted quarterback in his class. But, it is what it is.
Huge mistake there.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to have to go start Joe Burrow. I do love Joe Burrow. I'm not going to lie. He has a great...
She said the nickname, Maddox.
Oh, that one?
Well, I don't know what nickname you were thinking. Were you saying, when you say Joe Shiesty?
Yes.
Oh, man. I was
I was going to say that, but I didn't. Lamar's great. Everyone knows he's one of the best quarterbacks rushing, I feel.
Of all time.
He's the best
Obviously of all
quarterback.
time. So that's why I'm going to have to bench him, and then I'm going to have to cut C.J. Stroud just because I haven't seen him do the things. Joe Burrow's, he went to the...
That's a good point.
He went to the Super Bowl.
He almost won it.
Yeah, he almost won the AFC, his first season.
His first season is a healthy start.
Yeah. And then this year, the Bengals aren't doing great, but it's not. I don't think it's his fault.
Their defense is awful.
It's really not.
They almost lost
his fault.
The Bengals almost lost this previous Sunday's game, and the Browns were just tragedy after tragedy.
Yeah.
And they almost won.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for a kickoff return, that game would have been tied by Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
Bengals are in a sorry state right now.
It's bad.
I don't.
Yeah. It's crazy how NFL teams can be so good. I always remember growing up, the Bengals were horrible.
You know what the NFL stands for? Not for long.
Not for long.
And then
one day you're good and one day you're great.
Blew up 2021.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then now they're back at the bottom again, which is just crazy.
It's odd.
It's odd.
It's a really odd thing, but
they haven't really lost anyone either. I feel for the most part, it's the same. Key.
It's
lost Eli Apple.
Okay, well, that's a positive.
I'm joking.
That's a gain through a loss. But I mean, they lost DJ Reader on the interior line. Sure. He's an interior veteran who provided a lot of just a literal boulder in the middle of a human being, and that's a big veteran loss. They've lost some guys on the O-line. The biggest thing is they still can't figure out the O-line. No matter who they bring in, no matter who they subtract, they can't figure out the O-line, whether it's Orlando Brown Jr., whether it's they draft guys like Jonah Williams. It just doesn't matter, and that's the biggest thing for them is like they just can't figure out the O-line. But I think Lamar right now is one of the front runners for the MVP again. He would go back-to-back, which it would be the first time since I think Rodgers did it back-to-back,
2021,
which I have my feelings on. But Lamar has looked sensational this year. And maybe we could talk about Lamar and say, well, he's also, the reason he's doing so well this year is the product of Derrick Henry just being sensational at running back. But I still really like Lamar as a quarterback. The stats are there to prove it. He has the most yards, the most touchdowns, and he's tied for the least interceptions. I think he's clear and above the best quarterback out of these three.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this discussion. Just to
was
get
good.
everyone's thoughts and opinions, and for something new, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I think I forgot to mention that we're at a new area today.
Yes.
So we're trying some new things out for this show, but unfortunately, that is all the time that we have today to talk about all things sports. Thank you, Maddox and Gage, for
No problem.
getting into it with me, but I'm Jordan Hiles, and have a great day.